welcome to another episode of Career Conversations. My name is Bill Kelly. I am an assistant director with the Career Center here at Brookdale Community College. And Career Conversations is a podcast that is led by students. So we have a great topic point to discuss today. But before we get into our topics, I'll have my colleagues introduce themselves.
Mm-hmm. I'm Lauren Quint. I'm the coordinator here at Brookdale for Alumni Affairs.
My name is Shruti. I'm a computer science major. It's my last semester here at Brookdale. I'm a part of Dreamers, ISA, Computer Science Club, Women in Leadership and Learning, and Women in STEM, and NSLS, and some other clubs.
My name is Hannah. I am a mechanical engineer major here at Brookdale. I will be graduating this summertime and transferring to Rutgers. At least that's the plan. Yes. I work at the Career Center as a digital content creator where I manage the social media platforms.
And I'm Anna Carvalho. I'm an education major here, and I also work at the Career Center as a career peer mentor. And I'm really excited to kick us off with our special guest.
Hi, my name's Chris. I'm nowhere near as impressive as everyone else that has spoken. I was a public relations major. I was president of the Asia Society back in the day, but now I'm a human resource coordinator for Provident Bank.
All right, welcome. So one of the main goals of the Career Center is to demystify the college to career pathway, and we're using Career Conversations to really highlight the importance of visiting the Career Center and developing an action plan, really talking everything in terms of how to become career ready. So one of the aspects is really resume, right? That's Anna, if you want to go into, you primarily see students for their resume development when they're coming to the Career Center. So what are some of the issues that you're seeing when meeting with students and having these talks about the resume? And maybe Chrissy, if you want to share your thoughts.
Yeah, I'd be happy. Ladies first.
Thank you. So with resumes, I'm seeing students who are freshmen, fresh out of high school, to people who are about to graduate anytime now. And I've always said to them going in, the first thing is resumes shouldn't be one of those things where it's like the last thing on my checklist before I graduate. It might have come to that because of certain circumstances, but if you can avoid it and come to us pretty much starting your first semester to sort of start that initial conversation, even if it is really just a conversation before we even do anything resume related, I think that really helps out so your nerves are calmed. Because when you do get to that graduation time, which I'm currently in, I know that I've got like 100 other anxieties right now. The last thing that I would need would be, I forgot to do my resume and I'm going to need a job soon. Let me try to do it really quickly. So these students coming in, typically sometimes they don't even really know what a resume is. And for some people that's like, how could you not know? But you would be surprised. Sometimes in high school, if you're not that more engaged student where you reach out to guidance counselors and such, you might not even have had a conversation about your resume and making it to cater whatever job you're after or that career job. But obviously, as we know, in the Career Center, it's essential as that first step to your career. And I also get some people who aren't really sure, if I've done enough to put on here, is everything worth listing on here? And also, I don't feel like I have any skills to list, which we call transferable skills, is one of those things where you may not think that it's worth putting on a piece of paper, but really it says so much about you. One of the main ones that I just think that people really should list is always about your leadership roles and how willing you are to work as a team. Because I'm sure most jobs, you're going to have that team effort, whether it's meeting once a month to go over certain things or it's every day that you're meeting with people. Those are one of those skills that you really should be listing on your resume. And I always tell them to just jot down some things that you think you would like to, I like to say, brag about to an employer. So once you get those and you sort of like take anecdotes that you might, that one time I did do a leadership role in my job as a barista, and write those down, then you can start pinpointing and making them into skills. So those are some of the basis, I think, of resumes for me. I know a lot of people are really anxious about making them because it's that sort of thing where, my mom told me that it's supposed to be like this and it's supposed to be only half a page. But my uncle, who's 20 years younger, said that it has to be 3 pages and it should be this way. So you never really know what to follow. Of course, we have a guide and a template that we use that we have done research of a lot of different employer point of views, which I'm definitely sure that you could get into as well, where it's like that big bold or too much colors, that kind of stuff kind of, makes them step back, whereas just a plain black and white, straight to the point resume is just easier for employers to look at and really get through, because we know that there's hundreds and hundreds of resumes some companies have to get through. I can't imagine what that'd be like when it wasn't all on computer and it was just stacks of paper over and over. And we also know that they are those tracking systems now on the computer where it might not even go through to the actual person yet that's supposed to be reviewing. It might just get thrown away. So what my job really is at the Career Center is making sure that your resume makes it to that table. And it's one of those, approved resumes that hopefully, the employer is looking to hire you for. So I don't know if you have any anecdotes you want to add.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought up a couple of points about specifically those who just come in and do their resumes last minute. I just came back from a career fair very recently, and I can tell which resumes those are. One thing I do want to add on a little bit for those who want to keep it black and white. For me, for the summer internship program we have over 1,000, actually no, I can give you a specific number because I just checked it this morning. We have 1,064 applicants right now, and you have to do what you can to really stick out. I see these black and white resumes that are obvious you did it the day of, and you had some person guiding you through how to do the resumes. You have so many options online of how to make your resume stand out more. There's Canva, which is basically a free Photoshop, more or less, that you could type in resume template, and you can make it look so much better just by changing the format. We have AI. I love it and hate it. You can actually put down the current resume you have and tell it, hey, make my resume business professional. You could copy and paste it, or you can actually make some edits so that this way it's actually still your words coming out. And there's so many ways you can actually make yourself look better. And going to the point where it's like bragging about yourself, it's unfortunate that today's corporate culture, to get a job, you have to have some semblance of confidence. You have to be able to quantify what you have done. You have to be able to speak upon what you do. It's very much like the back of a water bottle or back of a soda bottle. It tells you very specifically what you've done. You have to be able to quantify specifically what you have done to help or grow as a person and what accomplishments you've achieved. Those things definitely help you stand out. Of course, it really does fall upon more or less, what are you trying to go in for? Because I remember you were just stating a point about it should be 1 page, it should be half a page, it should be 3 pages. It really depends on where you are in your professional career. My personal resume is actually 3 pages, but let's keep in mind I have I'm dating myself right now, like 14 years experience of like working in corporate America. So that's normal, and I'm going for a mid to senior level role, which makes sense for about a 3-page resume considering my skill sets and what I've actually done in my careers. If you're just starting, then like the 1-page rule kind of counts. I give the heaviest air quotations on the planet because the intern resumes that stuck out to me the most weren't the ones that had 17 jobs while they were working in school. They were the ones who actually did clubs, did events, worked on very big projects where they were actually able to quantify what they've done or what accomplishments have they had. Don't downplay your school projects, don't downplay the clubs that you join. Pay attention to what you're doing and just jot it down somewhere. Going back to the point, just write down what you've done. And the transferable skill sets, people not realizing it's a skill. TikTok is a skill now. Being able to browse the internet is a skill. Being able to turn on a computer, actually, technical literacy is a skill set. You have no idea how many people I just brought on board that if the computer wasn't on already, they would not know how to turn on a computer. I wish I was joking. That was an actual issue I had very recently. So just great points that you brought about specifically with the resumes. And if there's one thing I'm going to ask of everyone or anyone who is listening to this, unless you are going for a modeling agency or some type of movie thing that really depends on your face, please don't. Please don't. There's actually an HR reason behind it. It does prevent us from being discriminatory about like judging a person based off their physical appearance. But most importantly, I don't care. Only thing I, as a professional, care about, can you do the job? Are you within the vicinity? And what have you done in the past? You want me to judge you for who you are, not what you look like. That is just one sincere thing I would like to beg of everyone and anyone who is listening to this right now. please, no pictures. And if you have to put a picture, no filters. It's sad I have to say this, no filters. I can tell. A lot of us can tell.
Yes. So, and something we tell students at the end of the day, the resume is your document, right? So whatever you feel comfortable with. But we've always given the advice to shy away from Canva because sometimes it tricks that applicant tracking system that Anna mentioned too. So do you find that that's a possibility or how that works? Or is a PDF file just, from a Word document the best way to go?
It really depends on how it actually goes, and it depends on the applicant tracking system, actually, and I'm glad you brought that up. Depending on the company, specifically older ones who are still dead set on an ATS system, which is in our field, applicant tracking systems, that was created in the early 2000s, it does get messed up from it. But with the companies who are getting new programs, some of you may know this if you've already been actively applying, you see Workday. Everyone hates Workday. But because Workday is relatively new and it's still updating itself, it's changed its algorithm and it's changed its programming that it can read the Canva words. But it depends on how you save the file. If you save the Canva resume as a JPEG, PNG, and then try to convert it to a PDF, it will not register as a readable document. But if you save it as just a PDF, depending on the company you're going into, it will read the formats for the ATS to trigger off which keywords they may be looking for a specific said role. And I know everyone hates this in the application process. I just uploaded my resume. Why do I need to put down the other stuff as well, where it asks for your work history again, where it asks for all that information? It's for the ATS system. In case it can't read your resume, that's how it's going to be able to actually track what you actually have done and do you fall within the categories of the specific job of what they're looking for in an ideal candidate. And just to demystify some things for people, that number one question, why do I have to do that, but do it again? That's why.
That's interesting. Yeah, I've had students ask me that they've applied to let's say Indeed to a bunch of stuff, and then it asked them for it again. And I remember one student was like, I think I just put a period on every single thing, and I was like, oh. So that's actually good for people to know, because how could you know really without doing research or something what that was for? I've also thought that sometimes because of that rush, people might just skip through that and do the little, like she said, little periods in there. But it's really great points that you made. I think a lot of people need to take into consideration these tracking systems. But also, if you can make your resume, if it's not in a rush, a general one, but also catering that summary section that we always talk about, where it is about you, yes, but not to the sense of this is how many dogs I have about me, but as you as a professional, as you as someone who's seeking certain roles, my top line is that I'm dedicated to work with children. This is what I'm going after. And then I think too, and you can of course correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if a company is viewing something that they can tell was clearly created for that company and not just, hey, I'm going to take this random resume I had from a year ago and send it to all of them, see what happens. You can certainly tell, right? That's what I always tell them. I'm always like, that personal touch could mean so much between, if I've got 2 resumes, yours looks like you gave it to an ice cream shop and here, and this one is dedicated to my company. Which one, do I think I'm going to go with? So I think that's really important too.
Easily. I mean, there's, so part of my job is to review resumes specifically for the internal roles that we get from time to time. And I do see resumes that obviously they just recycled it from 2016. And it's just the last time you updated this literally was 2016 because it says it on your resume file. We read the resume file names, by the way. That's something we should let you guys know.
Right.
Two, it's not that the cover letters are so important. We can tell when the resume was crafted for us specifically. And between 2 candidates, I've had to choose before which ones do I want to move forward for the hiring manager to actually review. I decided to move forward with the ones that obviously showed that they cared about the position they applied for versus the ones that all right, this is application number 50 for you, isn't it?
Right.
Next.
I feel even in the interview process too, if you can do some research on your own time about that company that you can bring up during the interview, it shows they cared for this position specifically. I'm sure you could have interviews with other people, but if you had done research for this one, I actually saw that you guys are known for this. And I saw back in 2017, it's like, oh, they didn't just like show up expecting like to hear am I in or not. And I think that that's really important in the job, you know, world right now, is making sure you stand out, because obviously there could be 100 other people going after what you want to. And like you said, nowadays, like there are new positions, like becoming an influencer or a star on TikTok could be something that a lot of people are trying to do, and it could be, you know, versus you and someone else, what makes your content better than theirs. So stuff like that I think is really important. And I actually wanted to bring this to a really important topic of conversation that I have an article here from the Education Week, and it's saying a very interesting topic about Gen Z lacking job readiness, skills specifically, and this
It's not Gen Z's fault. I'm just going to say right now, it is not Gen Z's fault, but continue.
Yeah, no, yes. So there's a lot of different opinions, of course. Obviously, the three of us being Gen Z, we can have, you know, biased opinions, but I think I like to approach it more so overall. Obviously, the first thing is that I think everyone should know Gen Z is from 1997 2012. So the youngest Gen Zer is 12 and the oldest is 27. So that's really important, because I think sometimes referring to a general, they might literally just be talking about the ones who are 22 and then forgetting that there is a vast majority. And they are saying a lot of things now about how certain companies are avoiding hiring people who are younger than 27 because of the fact that they're in Gen Z. And it's terrible to say, but it's here, you know, that they've admitted I am less likely to hire someone who is Gen Z because of this lack of job readiness that they presume that majority of, you know, the generation has. And I'm not saying, you know, everyone is under this, but unfortunately sometimes with stuff like bias like this, they're going to assume if you're walking in, you're a Gen Z and she's Gen Z, I'm sure you guys are the same, you know? So I think it's really up to us to have these conversations where we can give our opinion. I think starting from just the point that COVID obviously was a major impact in this conversation as a whole. You can never have this conversation without bringing back COVID. It's obviously, you know, had some faults along the way where we weren't able to attend those first job interviews at, you know, 16 or 17 when we were getting our first jobs in person. Mine was literally over the phone, and then on Zoom the following appointment. And even now I feel like we've just stopped doing in person as well. Majority, they're just having us be online. So I don't really think that, to be fair, a lot of Gen Z was able to have that like training, you know, because I've definitely, my brother has told me, my parents always told him, like, put on a suit to go. For me, there's not something they have to say because I'm going to be on a computer and they're going to see from here up. You know, we can see that some Gen Z aren't dressing professionally or they're not taking it as seriously, but like he said, it's really not, in my opinion, completely the whole generation's fault, because again, this is 12 to 27, so completely different lives. I'm not sure how the 12-year-olds aspects will be when they get older.
Well, Christopher, you mentioned so it's not their fault. So
I can-
what's your take on this?
So, a little bit about me, what I studied before I actually moved forward. I grew up in a very stereotypical Asian household, so that means that they wanted to be a lawyer, doctor, accountant, that stuff. So I actually became very big on analytics in general, and I was a psych major. So I started studying a lot of different things about like what makes people think, what makes them tick. But something I've noticed specifically with Gen Z, because my cousin falls into that category, and I just helped her get an amazing job in New York. But I've had my sister-in-law and their and her boyfriend. They've been having issues, and what I'm learning is not just Gen Z, social media has taken such a chokehold on the millennial generation, Gen Z, and even further, that unfortunately the age of misinformation is very, very rampant. So we are all taking advice from people who sound amazing or look amazing on a screen, not knowing it's terrible advice. A couple of situations I could give. Actually, for those who are just listening, I'm going to give a situation as to something I know. This was something from social media, and this was unfortunately something that really happened to me. Anna, can you please shake my hand, and I'll show you, and you'll be me. Offer me your hand for a handshake, and I'll be a candidate. The candidate grabbed my finger and shook my finger. Not my hand, my finger. There's these unwritten rules that about going to an interview, speaking with somebody. it's not properly conveyed. The wrong message, the wrong focus of what actually needs to be paid attention to has been fed out to the public. And unfortunately, with psychology and with how people actually think, they go for what feels the most right for them. Not about what statistically is the most correct, but what feels the most right because of the way that the message was delivered. And during COVID, and which does fall back on COVID, we lost so much of that human element, that human interaction. All those behaviors such as making eye contact when you're speaking with somebody, having a firm handshake, enunciating, all of the art of conversation itself was lost because we had Zoom, phone. We didn't need to talk to anybody. We didn't need to look at anybody. It's these small little unwritten rules that we lost in the process. But another point that we need to pay attention to, who is Gen Z interviewing with? Not about like, oh, a CEO or a president. What's the demographic that they're interviewing with? We have to keep those biases in mind that a lot of the demographics you're interviewing with, not all of them are millennials yet. They're still the generation above the millennials that are still in charge of the hiring process, where, sad to say, the old-fashioned mentality still comes through, that you need to have X, Y, and Z, even though it's obsolete and outdated and the skill sets or even just the specific characteristic of you is no longer a viable thing to really care about. That's something they still pay attention to. It's those small little cues. And I'm going to fire some shots. The older generation, were you guys taught any of that? Like for Gen Z, were you guys taught how to shake a hand properly? Were you guys taught how to actually maintain eye contact? Were you guys taught actually how to enunciate when having a conversation with somebody? I have 3 Gen Z individuals right in front of me. I'd love to hear your responses.
Well, I think I have a little bit of advantage because my dad himself is a hiring manager. So
You have the cheat codes.
Exactly. Like I was taught everything, and I was not everything, but I think even when I'm hearing my dad taking business calls, and I'm like, oh, okay, like I'm taking notes, and being like mindful of what's actually going on. And personally, being a computer science major, it's kind of very competitive right now, and like that fear of like, am I even gonna have a job when I leave college? Especially because of like the competitiveness and all that. So it's like I'm trying to do a lot of research. So like I'm really looking into all of those. Like a lot of times when I'm free, either I'm gonna watch like a show or something, or I'm gonna have like a YouTube video of like how to enunciate. And I have seen videos about those. And in the past few weeks, like I think after I talked to you about my resume, I looked at a bunch of videos like importance of eye contact. So I have been doing research. That's why I think I have a upper hand, I guess.
No, that's great.
But
take advantage of that.
Yeah, exactly. So I think not like the thing is like I don't think I've even like professionally ever had a handshake. So that's like something that I'm not good with. But especially like I'm trying to enunciate or work on my pronunciations. Also like English not being my first language.
Same here.
It's like some certain words like I don't even like saying that word. A quarter. I hate saying that word so much. And statistics, like I had for the longest time I had such a problem saying that word. I was like I would use any other word instead of that. Like 25 cents. Stats.
Yep.
But it's like I'm trying to work on that, but I think yeah.
Okay, no, that's fair. And a quick thing about enunciation, I have a trick from George Clooney himself. I read from an interview a long time ago. If you hold a pencil in your mouth for about a minute and just speak like a sentence, you're going to notice when you take out the pencil, you're much more articulate. And that was a trick I used to do always right before an interview, especially if it was Zoom. I would just blab a total random sentence to myself or a whole essay to myself, take the pencil out, and then...
Just read Shakespeare.
I would go far as Shakespeare, but I would just read like a funny joke. I was like, all right, knock, knock, who's there? Just anything to get the muscles moving, but you'll notice the words that come out of your mouth just sound like a different person. It's like, who are you? Come live with me some more. But for you two, like, has anyone really talked to you about like the proper rules of when you introduce yourself to somebody, like just either at a career fair or even at the interview? Has anyone really talked to you about that or even given you the rules of what to actually follow aside from social media?
I think my parents have definitely like brought it up, like, oh, make sure you have good eye contact, but like they never like continued on, like they never like build on top of that. But whenever I watch my sister, she worked as a career peer mentor here at Brookdale, and I remember waking up at 2 a.m. and passing by her room. She would be doing the big interview recordings. So we watch her just doing that 2 a.m. What the heck are you doing? And she's like, I'm practicing, don't bother me. I'm like, okay. Yes. But she definitely I think I learned of those career readiness skills by watching her, by seeing how she's putting that effort into it, researching if using big interview, because I know I don't use it, but she used it. She used what she was had resources to, and she also did internships and stuff, because she took that initiative to get that career readiness and stuff.
No, but that's great. I mean, I'm glad I have two people proving me already that you guys have older generation people teaching you this stuff. And what about you? Did anyone really teach you these things?
Yeah, so, coming from completely a different continent, it's kind of difficult, what is sort of the norm there to greet, because you know how they say sometimes in Europe they kiss you on your cheek to say hi, that type of stuff, what's normal. My mom and my dad, it's sort of that thing where if we're having people over, it's it's respectful that you shake every single person's hand, or you hug them if you're comfortable enough. So I always had in my mind that's just manners, I'm gonna say hi, I'm going to introduce myself. So fortunately, yeah, I've always had that. That's why in this conversation that's why I get confused, because I wonder what part of Gen Z they're referring to, because I feel I'm directly in the middle, and it's fair, obviously, to assume that a 12-year-old nowadays doesn't know something like that, but that's fair. I have a 13-year-old cousin and two 16-year-olds, and they're completely different than me, and sometimes I think about it, I'm we're not that far. You're 5 years maybe from me, the 16-year-olds, and 8 the 13-year-old, and I'm what, where did it happen? But I can say that, yeah, towards the end, it gets a little bit more that they wouldn't know.
No, I'm glad that you three are here to prove me wrong specifically on that point. But now my question goes to the next part. Can you say the same for your peers? Because no, this is where the point is, because you three are right in front of me for working for the Career Center, which is great, because you guys have the passion and the drive. But your peers, I want to know, because when I came from the Career Center, during that for the career fair that I had a while ago, I could tell you I only 0.5% of the 178 people that I've met, because everyone else seemed to have forgotten the rules. And the ones who didn't forget, I'm pretty sure came from similar backgrounds as you three, where manners were very highly integrated. Actually, some of them I took it upon myself to give them some notes. There are suit rules for men or women who choose to wear a suit to unbutton the bottom suit button. Not a lot of people knew that. About the handshake or what certain questions. You know how you sometimes ask interview questions as, what do you like least about your job? Someone straight up went up to us and said, what do you hate most about your job?
Yeah, right.
These little social cues, the word choices that you guys actually have to use. It's just, we noticed there was a big disconnect from a class maybe 4 years ago versus the class now. So that's why I just wanted to just bring that point up. Can you say the same for your peers? Do you think that they actually are ready for an interview just from those things alone?
Yeah, if I could talk on some of my closer friends, me and Hannah are actually saying this before. Sometimes it depends really 100% on your background, and that is nobody's fault, but it just happens. Coming from the lucky part that I had the older sibling thing is completely different than someone who had absolutely nobody. And it doesn't necessarily mean first gen, but just maybe their parents started first but then didn't go all the way through, so it's kind of that in between. And I have just brought it upon myself to sometimes, I guess I don't even notice it, but teach things along the way. So with friends that I have that don't know certain things, that I have invited to family gatherings, and I tell my cousins, get up, all of them, and go hug everybody. I'm trying to teach them. I do the same for, like you said, my peers. So those are my closer friends here at Brookdale, which Brookdale has pretty much brought me. Every single friend that I have is from here. And I have guided all of them as much as I can, even with career in general. I'm always bringing up, do you guys want to come by for your resume? I can help you. I think you should really do it. And then they end up telling other people. So it's that whole thing. And I feel it is hard sometimes when you don't come from it, but I do see where the gap falls. I believe that it's our jobs as the people who do know things like that, what to do and what to tell other people, to give that information to those who have no background or don't have anyone to tell them, because I'm sure, like you said, like your dad, it was a really great help for you that you had someone to literally point exactly what they're looking for. Some people have either no help at all, or maybe the help that they did get has nothing to do with the career world now, which it does happen here. It's saying the Gen X, which is 1965 to 1980, some of them are the ones that are responsible for hiring us. So that's where it comes from, where they're not used to online resumes. Maybe they wanted you to bring a physical one and they're upset that you didn't, but you wouldn't know that because they didn't teach us to start bringing physical anymore. It's more saves paper, all this other stuff. So it's kind of difficult. And I even have here that it says to, I'm directly quoted, it said 47% of survey respondents reported job candidates dressing inappropriately for interviews. 21% had a job candidate refuse to turn on their camera for a virtual interview. And 19% reported to having a college graduate bring a parent to a job interview.
Interesting stats.
Yeah.
This
That's
is very
interesting. I learned something
interesting,
new.
but I can say obviously that this is not nearly, all of us. It is, like I said, 47, 21, and 19%. So I feel like when they do have candidates like this, it just blanks out for the rest. I would never not turn on.
Christopher's having some PTSD.
Yeah.
so-
Oh, yeah.
With those,
I feel that.
with those numbers, I'm just like, I should play
Yeah.
the lottery. I mean, like, how did I get every single case that
Right.
you just mentioned?
So if you have like anecdotes on any, interviews that you've had, maybe.
I can point out a few right now off the top of my head. I was interviewing somebody for, that's when I was back working with the staffing agency, and with staffing agencies, we would place you depending, we get multiple different clients. So the chances of you finding a job were relatively high depending on the interview. And my clients would ask me to do the pre-screening process prior to submitting the resume. So I would do Zoom interviews with them. Have you ever had someone interview with you the whole time in a bathrobe and nothing but a bathrobe? In bed?
What?
Oh my god.
I wish that was a joke. I wish I was laughing. This was not a joke. Then this is not for just some like any menial task. This wasn't some entry level role or like an entry level role. This was a grown individual falling between the mid 30s, early 40s, going in for a mid level role. So that means and based off their resume, they had experience interviewing for other companies. That was just one. And my favorite in-person one was office admin role, going in for a receptionist role. I wanted to come in person because the client requested someone that presented well, and actually there were just small little things that they wanted me to pay attention to on their physical body, what they come in with an interview. Hot pink tube top with almost see-through mini skirt and nails crazy long. And I asked them if that's something they felt that was all right for this interview, and they said, I don't see an issue with this. I want to show who I am as a person. If they don't like that, that's too bad. That was just, yes, that actually
Red
happened.
flag.
And speaking of parents, I've had an individual, I'm not going to give any names, 60 years old, coming in for a warehouse job. I was processing them. I couldn't give them a job right away. I was fully unaware that the lady behind him was his mother, who proceeded to yell at me for not giving him a job right away.
Right.
And of course, after that incident, I made sure never to put him on an assignment ever again, period. But yes, I've had everything you have mentioned, and there's a lot of little faux pas. And actually, in the college career fair that I've had a couple of people come in with a career fair. Just, I want all three of your opinions. How should you dress up going into a career fair?
Like you're going to an interview, because you could have an on-the-spot interview, like the moment you hand them your resume.
Okay.
Exactly, just like how I came in and I told you what I wanted, and you were like, I have a position for that. And I wish I was more prepared for this, because I came here for my math class. I was not expecting that. But probably something I would show up to an interview wearing.
Okay. And you?
Yeah, so I have been to career fairs with my younger cousins because I've seen them and I was like, let me be that older or just role in general and bring them. And I had picked up my two 16-year-old cousins in sweatpants and Nike hoodies, and I told them to go back inside. And I said, let me help you out. And I think that, I'm not necessarily saying to anyone to show up in a suit, you know, if they don't want to. But I feel like there's a fine line between, you know, dressing up like you're going to see your friends and then I'm here to present myself well, because really that first impression is everything, and we do go over that in the office when we're talking about mock interviews and stuff like that. It's important to also do a trial. Like Bill's great at doing that with students all the time, where we have those trials where you can sit down and get those nerves out, because the other thing too is getting there and then just blanking. And I know that it's hard because it's super nerve-wracking. I was nerve-wracked like completely for this, and now I'm much better. But it's those things too, that like trying, testing out, putting on what you're wearing, maybe asking, you know, your parents, like, does this look good? Or asking a friend who's used to, you know, the interview process. Because I have definitely, unfortunately, I think I was 15 years old. I was trying to apply to a job at the grocery store, and I came in jeans and a shirt, and I didn't know any better. And it took, you know, me being able to talk to other people, like my brother, to where he said, never wear that again. And he kind of gave me a breakdown, like, you know, you don't have to show up in an evening gown, but somewhere in between where it's definitely appropriate. So
I personally also think it depends on what you're going for. Like, if I'm going to the career fair just to check it out, just to see what's going on, obviously I'm not going to show up in like sweatpants, but still I would maybe not wear like loud colors, maybe something neutral. But if I'm actually going in there with the mindset of I'm going to talk to a HR manager, an interviewer, and I'm going to go for a job, and I'm going to look actually like it, I think it depends on what mindset you're going with. And it, like, the more, like, if you're looking for like, oh, I'm actually going to go for a job and I'm going to talk to an interviewer, then I would dress up more in like a business attire. But maybe if I'm just going to like check it out and see like what's going on, and just to have like that experience, because like I recently went to my first hackathon, and it was
Congratulations.
Thank you. And the first one was online, which was kind of unfortunate because like I didn't get the feel like how I wanted it to be, but that's beside the point. And it's like I genuinely was not prepared at all. I was just going in there to see how it goes down. And then I went to my other hackathon, which was in person, and I felt more prepared for it. And I actually did my research the night before, and I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and this is how I'm going to go about it. I didn't cheat, don't worry. I was just like looking at videos of people talking about their hackathons, and that's like, I prepared for it. And I think, bringing back to my original point, yeah, like I didn't mean to stare off, but it really depends on like what mindset you're going in there with. Because also like if I'm going in there with like an unserious mindset, the person who I'm talking to is not going to take me seriously if I am unserious. Which it's like unfortunate that it comes down to such like bare minimum points, where it's like how like your handshaking and your eye contact. Because I also understand like the millennials' point of view, where it's like they're disappointed and all that, but like also, like, they need to change with the time.
No, and that's absolutely fair, and I'm actually glad you guys ended it with those specific points, because as a millennial, we're a little bit, I would like to consider myself a little bit more understanding. I went to the career fair, and not everyone was in a suit, but I could tell when you made an attempt. That was the most important thing for me. I could tell that there were people who came in that they just picked up the suit from Goodwill because it didn't fit well enough or something. An attempt was made. I'm not asking you to come in a suit. I just want to see that at least an attempt was made to make yourself presentable, which is great. And just, not to counter your point, but to explain really quickly how come we use everything to judge the person's character, like the handshake, the eye contact, things like those small little minuscule things that seem minuscule. There's multiple points to it. One, would they fit in with the company culture, where the company culture is a little bit more on the aggressive, let's have a lot of communication, face-to-face communication type of thing, where those things actually do matter, considering that the CEO is a little bit more on the old-fashioned side. Or, here's another point that I want you to consider just from my side of the back end. Just from the career fair, of 3 hours, I received 178 resumes. I need you to do your best to impress me and to have me know who you are, or have me realize that at the end of the day, where I am mentally drained, my social battery is at a -2. You are the person that stuck out the most because you were the only one, or you were one of the few who shook my hand correctly gave me good eye contact, and held a decent conversation. Because if there's one thing I do want to pass on to the future generations, to anyone listening, that is an art that you need to learn, especially in corporate America. How to hold a conversation about anything, whether it be work, the weather, shoes, table, the clothes, something. Holding a conversation actually plays a huge part, because now I'm thinking, would they fit well with this hiring manager? This guy tends to like to talk a lot about his shoes. You know what? They probably would. Or, oh, this person knows how to deliver their message and cut it off right afterwards. That's good. This hiring manager specifically likes people who can get to the point. So it's these little things that I pay attention to when I'm out looking for people, sourcing. It feels a little unfair. Definitely, I know, especially since you guys receive so many conflicting ideas or conflicting reports of what is acceptable, what's not acceptable. One teacher's going to say one thing. One YouTuber's going to say another thing. One HR professional on TikTok is going to say another thing. I use the heaviest air quotations for those who are just listening. It's not fair for you guys that you are coming in basically with the cards stacked against you. So this is me just trying to give you from my perspective what it is to help push yourself a little forward, because something that, at least from my perspective, I love to be proven wrong. So I play with the statistics. So unfortunately, with those reports, I do keep those things in mind. So when I meet someone who gets to prove me wrong, it's a great day.
Right.
And that's and I can say that's the same sentiment for a lot of recruiters on the back end.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just previously what I meant was, coming from my background, I feel like those are like the bare minimum points, like having, because I'm just like why wouldn't you hold up eye contact? Even though I learned it from YouTube or my dad. I'm like, why, like, for me, even though I might be wrong about this, but for me it's like common sense, because it's like, if you're talking to someone, like, why, because even my younger brother, he's 13 years old, and he tends to, like, whenever we're talking to him, he looks elsewhere, or he's like, he's 13 years old. He has his iPad, his phone, his laptop, he's eating, and he'll have all the three things going on. And when I'm talking to him, he's like, yeah, I'm listening. And I'm like, okay, what did I just say? And it's like, I have to teach all of that to him, because also, like, when we were talking, like, it's the assumed parental role as an immigrant child, or I don't even know, as an older sister. And, like, I'm the middle child, like, it's not even my responsibility. But it's like, I'm, like, trying to also educate him with all of that. So for me, it's like, it's so in my head where I'm like, oh, that's common sense. Like, why, when you're talking, like, when I'm telling him something, like, why wouldn't you look at me? Or listen, like, understand what I'm saying.
If I can add to that, I think that my general opinion about this entire conversation and this article itself is that I think everyone, no matter what the age group is, really has to do their own part in understanding everybody else's part. So I cannot expect someone in this Gen X, which is 1965 again to 1980, to understand why my 16-year-old cousin can't look you right in the eye sometimes, and he's got to look away. He's anxious. The main years that he was meant to do this sort of interacting thing that we can do so nicely because we've done this our whole lives is when technology came out, and pandemic just took that away. So I can't expect him to be able to do things that I know how to do, right? So of course everyone uses their phones. I'm sure we go crazy if we lost them, but I know how to put them down when I'm with my friends and not look at it the entire time we're together, where for him it's hard, you know, because that's how they cope. So I think that with this article, that's really what I think it's trying to say, and I completely agree with the point, is that everyone is coming from something, and you know, maybe it would have been this way even without the pandemic, but I truly think that it's what weighs on it the most, is this sort of, they took, you know, really a lot of years from us. And like I said, the career fair, the only one that I was going to have that whole 4 years of high school was senior year, and I didn't get to have it. So I didn't get to do those, you know, interactions like this. And I try to hope that in the future, you know, as a teacher, most teachers now are starting from 20 to 25, right? And I know that most people hiring them could be 35 and up. So I want them to also look at me and understand, I know that I'm on the younger side, but we're on the same page. We're just trying to help kids. So I think that that's super important when it comes to the hiring process, you know, going through resumes, these interviews, is making sure that they at least have those core values. And I think that that is what sets everyone apart really well. And I think that there's going to be a lot of changes in the future with the job world. It's ever changing. Even with resumes, you know, like you said, sometimes in the beginning, it came from your parents knowing resumes a certain way. We know it a different way. Maybe when my 16-year-old cousins are 21, resumes will be half a paragraph, and it'll be just like a QR code or something. We don't know.
Yeah.
So as long as we're like changing with the times and really understanding perspectives, I think that we could really go no wrong from here.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, right? So change will happen, right? And it's hard to navigate, well, what is considered professional and what is not considered professional, and that's going to change depending on the industry and what have you, but really research at the end of the day is really important. So I know we're nearing the end of our time, but how do you think you can, because professionalism is a career readiness competency, right? So how do you think students can practice professionalism while a current student? Maybe in the classroom or their interactions with the club or organization?
Maybe small as like, you know, good posture, standing up straight, tall, like enunciation. I don't have a problem with that, but like speaking clearly and loud enough for people to hear, and also like being presentable. Like, don't look like a slob. You just got up from bed. You know, there's some circumstances like mental health issues, but like if you're like mentally well, like you should put effort into like your appearance, you know.
And just bringing back to what she was saying is about like taking initiative and using all the resources that you have. Just like coming to the career department or talking to the transfer department, or even as simple as talking to your professors, because they are more experienced than we are, like we are at the current moment. And it's just like talking to them and talking about their experience, because just a lot of times I go to my either like the computer science department, my professors, and I would go to them and I ask them questions about like their jobs, or not in an unprofessional way. I go during their office hours when they're free, and while they're helping me with my assignments, I'll just be like, hi, like what's been your experience, or if you could tell me more about what you're doing and how you achieved, and either just like talking to my dad. And don't worry, I don't look at his resume files, but like if he wants to tell me about it, like sometimes he drives me home from school, so he will like tell me about it, and he'll be like, oh yeah, like right now I'm hiring for this company and this is the role we're interviewing for, and just like listening to that and paying attention to all of that. And I think like taking initiative.
I think that if you were lucky enough to, like myself, have done a field observation or an internship role, taking that moment to ask those questions of the people who are obviously in what you want to do is essential. Thankfully, I was very, very lucky. I had 2 teachers I worked with. One was a teacher for 40 years, and she's still there at the school. She's been there the whole time. And then another one had just joined not that long ago. She is also currently pursuing a master's. So I had kind of both sides of it, and every single piece of advice they gave me, I was writing it down. Whether that was, you know, comments about, in the beginning I had texted the older teacher, and she sent me a list of things that she wears to work that seems appropriate. You know, she gave me do's and don'ts. She was like, you know, jeans here, not really, like we don't really do jeans. Some high schools do wear jeans, the teachers. You know, she said about colors, about print, and I took every single thing down, because where am I going to, you know, get this information from better than literally the source? So if you're able to quite literally listen to the people in those positions, or, you know, if you do know of someone, professors here, my English professors, Dr. Avelate, I always ask her stuff, because obviously she has so much experience, and I'm constantly asking, well, what did you do when you were interviewing, like, for your role? Like, what was one of the, you know, the things that you used to help you get this position? Were you scared? What was the questions you asked? And being able to also pick up information and listen to it the entire time, because I understand that no matter how old you are, sometimes listening to things could be like, oh, but I want to do it this way. but that point of view, they have that job for a reason, or they had experienced that for a reason. Like listening to your dad, he knows what he's talking about, like it could be not exactly your career, but those little tips I think is super important if you're just reaching out, even like me and you, if I wanted to reach out. So yeah, that's my point of view.
And I just have a very quick one. This is something I did with my college kids, friends at the time. I gamified it. We would actually, because they needed help with it, so we made it a game. There were days that they could only talk to me in professional talk. When they texted me, they had to text me in professional talk. We would laugh at each other. It was funny because, like I said, I hung out with the degenerates, which unfortunately, the reason why they were classified that is because they didn't really have a great background. They came from a lower socioeconomic background, and they didn't exactly have the models or the examples that they could look up to. So, and they weren't used to it, and it made them nervous. So if anyone's listening and they're afraid to do it, play this game with your buddies. I'm corporate professional Dave now. So I would talk to my friends, and instead of the, yo, what up, how's it going? I'd be like, hi, Kyle, how are you today? And we would just be as obnoxiously professional as possible.
That's
but
a good tip.
it carries over because because when you're at work, you have to put on a mask. You know what? You've been developing this mask since you've been playing around in college or high school, wherever. It's something you get comfortable with, and you realize, oh, wait, they actually wanted this.
It's a really good tip.
Absolutely. Confidence is key, right? But with that comes the practice, right? So excellent topic points. I know we're at the end of our time. So thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Alrighty.